Brooks saddles are perhaps the most universally comfortable bike saddles on the market. Between their classy leather traditional saddles that gradually take the form of your buttocks over time, or their modern cambiums that are supremely comfortable out of the box, I've experience with both, so let's take a look at the Brooks Cambium versus the Brooks leather saddle. Of course, Brooks has a range of saddles for their rubber cambiums and their leather saddles, and I have experience with the C17 and the Brooks Swift. So if you're interested in those saddles, in my opinion on those, check them out linked in the description. For bikes with a lively ride quality made out of top-tier lightweight steel, check out our channel sponsor Wabi Cycles linked at the top of the description. To compare the Brooks Cambium line versus the leather Brooks saddles, we're going to take a look at 4 characteristics between the two. Number 1, looks. 2, build quality. 3, ease of use. And 4, of course, is comfort. And depending on which qualities you value most in a saddle, that will guide your final decision. First up, the looks of the Brooks Cambium. Cambiums are made out of a vulcanized rubber base and have a cotton canvas cover. And they're kept together with steel rivets, and while they do add some character, it's nothing to drool over. Also, with the Cambium, you can choose carbon rails and rivets. The best that you can get in the looks department with the Cambium is to get an unassuming black one. Regardless of cover though, Cambium is going to look like a pair of Levi's. The Brooks leather saddles, on the other hand, ooze in class. Leather Brooks look better with age, and as they do age, fine layers of scuffs, dirt, exposure to moisture and sun gives each saddle a unique character. The hand-hammered copper rivets nicely accents the deep finish of the leather, while adding another layer of craftsmanship and uniqueness to each saddle. No two leather Brooks saddles are exactly the same, and the wear that they show begins to tell the story of how the rider uses it. If you're really into bikes, leather Brooks saddles are a functional work of art. Of course, you can choose from your standard colors like black, brown, or honey, and you can even choose between your favorite regrettable furniture colors like apple green, candy red, and royal blue. Having a saddle that's a functional work of art can be a bad thing though, since they are more attractive to thieves. But in the looks department, hands down, it goes to the leather Brooks saddles. Next up, we have build quality of the two. While the Cambium's build quality with its rubber base, cotton canvas cover, and your choice of either carbon or steel rails and rivets is good, it's not great. I use a steel rail Cambium for 3 years, and here are some of the issues that I ran into. The finish on the backplate logo peeled off fairly early on into the saddle's life, and with each pedal stroke, the saddle squeaked when the rubber rubbed against the rails, and I had to solve this by wrapping the rails in electrical tape. And with the lighter colored Cambiums, you need to be wary of staining them if you wear darker colored pants. My slate Cambium ended up looking like a pair of Levi's in both texture and color. Leaving the saddle out in the sun for hours on end will also bleach the cotton cover, and the dye on it rubs off pretty easily compared to synthetic or leather saddles. In the first couple years that the Cambiums were on the market, people reported having issues with the nose rivets completely popping off, although this is less likely to happen with newer models. The nose though is generally a weak spot on the Cambium. After 3 years of riding my Cambium, the rubber at the nose completely ripped, and the shell popped completely off of the rails. To be fair though, I rode that saddle into the ground, and I was perfectly happy with the level of comfort and the amount of use that I got out of it. My biggest gripe with the Cambium though, again, has to do with that cotton canvas cover. This is a pretty big deal if you ride in pants a lot. I ride exclusively in pants like jeans, khakis, or wool pants. I had to buy a new pair of pants about every 4 to 6 months because the friction from that cotton canvas cover chewed through the rear. This is less likely to be a problem if you frequently ride in pants made from synthetic materials like polyester or lycra, since there won't be as much friction. The rough texture of the canvas cover eating through my entire wardrobe was a deal breaker for me, and because of that reason, I find it difficult going back to a Cambium no matter how much I love it. And in my experience, Brooks leather saddles have been the gentlest saddles for pants as far as wear and tear goes. Leather has a smooth texture, and it doesn't have much to bite into your clothing while pedaling. So if you exclusively ride in pants made of natural materials, leather will be much friendlier to your wardrobe. The build quality overall on the leather saddles feels much more substantial than the cambiums. Leather is much stiffer than rubber, so rivets aren't going to be popping off anytime soon. And if you get the fancier leather Brooks saddles with the hands-hammered copper rivets, it adds to that feeling of craftsmanship. Build quality with the leather Brooks saddles tends to be better because Brooks has been making them pretty much the same way for over 150 years, whereas the cambiums, they're only a few years old and the manufacturing process can still be improved. As with cambiums, dye from darker colored pants can bleed into the leather saddles. But instead of just making your saddle look like a pair of jeans, it adds a bit of depth and character to each saddle. Be warned if you ride in light colored pants though, because if you recently applied a layer of proof hide to your saddle, the dye from the saddle can bleed into your pants, but in my experience, it does wash out. While I got 3 solid years out of my cambium before it bit the dust, a properly cared for leather Brooks saddle will last 5 to 10 years. The winner for build quality is the leather Brooks saddle. Although that does come with a big caveat. They're only better in build quality if you're willing to maintain them properly. Which brings us to our next section, ease of use. Brooks cambiums are really great in this department. They're maintenance free and they're weatherproof, so all you have to do is ride it and enjoy it. Brooks leather saddles, on the other hand, require a lot more care and attention, making them a figurative pain in the butt. Pain in the butt number 1 with leather Brooks saddles. Maintenance. To keep the leather from drying out and cracking, you need to apply a layer of proof hide about every 6 months in the beginning and every 2 to 3 years down the line. Pain in the butt number 2. Weather. A soaked leather saddle will stretch and then dry stretch, making all of your hard work breaking it in and molding it to the shape of your buttocks moot. With leather saddles, you need to be diligent about covering it in the rain or on overly humid and sweaty days or even overly sunny days so it doesn't dry out. The winner for ease of use by a long shot, the Brooks Cambium. Both of these saddles are really dang comfortable, and depending on what you're looking for, one saddle may be better than the other. Saddle comfort though is largely subjective, and you need to get the correct saddle shape and width for your unique physiology. Because of that, comfort differences from material will be subtle, while the shape and dimensions of the saddle will be king for comfort. With that said though, Brooks saddles are perhaps the most universally comfortable saddles. So here's the general differences between the Cambium and the leather saddles. The Brooks Cambium has about 8 to 9 out of 10 levels of comfort right out of the box, and it stays comfortable for its lifetime. Cambium's comfort comes from the rubber shell conforming to the shape of your body when you sit on it. The best way that I can describe it is that while most saddles feel like you're sitting on top of them, it feels like you're sitting in the Brooks Cambium. It's like the difference between sitting on a stool versus in an armchair. Brooks leather saddles are the most comfortable saddles that you can get, assuming you're willing to deal with pain in the butt. Number 3, breaking the saddle in. Some people find them comfortable right out of the box, while others find them downright painful out of the box. Regardless, you'll have to break a leather Brooks saddle in for the first 100 to 200 miles of riding it, in order to get it to that legendary level of comfort that everybody raves about. I've been riding a Brooks Swift for almost a year now, and while it is mostly broken in, I'm still in the process of breaking it in, and it does feel more comfortable every month. Once completely broken in though, you can expect 10 out of 10 levels of comfort from a leather Brooks saddle. It is a small improvement over the Cambium, but still an improvement nonetheless. The winner here by a little bit, the leather Brooks saddle. So who is the Brooks Cambium best for, and who are the Brooks leather saddles best for? Well, if you think 8 to 9 out of 10 levels of comfort is good enough for you, and you value the ease of use with the Cambium more than the craftsmanship of the leather saddles, and if you want a saddle that will make your bike way more comfortable now and for the saddle's lifetime without having to worry about it and maintain it, then the Cambium is for you. It's the most comfortable saddle that's not a pain in the butt. A figurative pain in the butt, that is. Do keep in mind though that you need to sometimes ride in pants made of synthetic materials, or at least have a big rotation of pants. I usually have a rotation of 3 to 4 pairs of pants that I ride in, and at the end of the year with the Cambium, I would have to replace them all. The Cambium has been the most pants-hungry saddle that I've used. But even with the inconvenience of having to buy so many pairs of pants, it's so dang comfortable while being maintenance-free that I have no regrets. It's just that I've found something better for my uses. the Brooks leather saddle. If you value looks and craftsmanship over ease of use, and if you're willing to deal with the 3 pains in the butt of leather saddles, which is weather, maintenance, and breaking them in, you can enjoy the most comfortable saddle that money can buy for the next 5 to 10 years. Keep in mind though, it is only marginally more comfortable than a Cambium. They're also great if you're like me and you exclusively ride in pants made of natural materials like in jeans or in wool pants, then a leather saddle will have less aggressive wear and tear on your pants. The Brooks leather saddle wins for my uses, but for most people I would recommend picking up a Cambium if you're considering a Brooks saddle. You can't go wrong with a Cambium, but you can go wrong with a leather saddle if you get lazy. And the Cambium is 90% as comfortable as a leather Brooks saddle without any of the figurative pain in the butts. No saddle is perfect though, so what kind of saddle do you ride and what do you like about it and what don't you like about it? Let me know in the comments. Speaking of close to perfect, our channel sponsor Wabi Cycles has lightweight bikes with a buttery smooth, lively ride quality that only top shelf steel can bring. I get to ride a lot of bikes and it's honestly the nicest riding bike that I've ever ridden. Don't tell Wabi though, because I'd say that and I have said that without them sponsoring me. Wabis are carefully spec'd with no-nonsense, high-performing components to give you the best ride quality for the money. So if you're looking for your ends-all, be-all fixed gear, consider checking out our channel sponsor Wabi Cycles, linked at the top of the description. Don't watch this upcoming video if you haven't ridden your bike yet. Instead, ride your bike every day to be reasonably dangerous.